Do governments already use AI for predictive policing or mass monitoring? We're going to see that the answer is, in fact, yes, governments are.
Police in Los Angeles are trying to predict the future, and they're not alone. More and more departments are using data-driven algorithms to forecast crime.
It's all about improving accuracy and improving our effectiveness, our efficiency, and our service to the community.
Proponents say it's helping to reduce crime, but others wonder, at what cost?
The algorithm is always going to augment the system that it's in, and if the system itself is biased, is unjust, then the algorithm's going to replicate that.
Okay, to make one thing clear, especially in the United States, there is a really serious problem around this. People do get wrongfully convicted all the time. We saw what happened with the whole George Floyd thing, and that's not like a one-time occurrence. That kind of thing happens in the United States, and it's like super sad. I've personally been in communities. I know people from marginalized communities in the United States, and it is really, really sad to see the system and the racism, like the systematic and systemic racism that exists in the US. I think I've seen it more systemically there than honestly anywhere else I've been in my life, any other country that I've seen. There is a huge divide, and I can understand why people are concerned about now predictive policing, because if people are offloading their thinking, especially like people in law enforcement, if they're just going to trust the AI, and the AI can be wrong, and they're like, well, you know, this machine said you did the crime, so that's it. I can see how that could be a really, really big problem. The less people are thinking, and the more that they are just relying on something else to do the thinking for them, is a dangerous, slippery slope. So yeah, I can see what the concern is.
Say you're living in Los Angeles and you just got out of prison. The LAPD could be keeping tabs on you through a program known as Operation Laser. It uses crime, arrest, and field data to determine where violent crimes are likely to take place and who will perpetrate them. Groups like the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition are sounding the alarm in local communities. They say predictive policing strategies like Laser disproportionately target low-income people and communities of color. The Laser program tries to predict who might commit violent crime using a point system. For example, if you're on probation, that's 5 points on your record. If you're in a gang, that's another 5. A stop by police can get you another point. The people with the highest scores in each of LA's 21 divisions are placed on a list called the Chronic Offender Bulletin.
You tally up all those numbers. Some folks end up with 2 points. Some folks end up with 40 points.
This is a pretty intense thing. It is a pretty intense system, okay? Yo, we're living in such an interesting time. We're living in a super, like, we're just in between things right now. Like, we know what the system was before. We know how it was broken in so many ways. And like, this is clearly a solution in the eyes of law enforcement. This is clearly improving efficiency significantly, because they're automating this process of like who to watch out for. But what's the trade-off now? It is mass surveillance. This is like clearly, Operation Laser is clearly mass surveillance. You know, a lot of people that are born into these communities that may not be a gang member, may not be a criminal at all, but they have family members or like community members that are potentially gang members, for example, which is very common. This is not an uncommon reality in the United States, especially they mentioned in Los Angeles. And you could just suddenly be on the list, and you have all of these vectors and point system around you as if you've got like 3 stars or like at least 1 star in Grand Theft Auto. For example, like if someone that had a star just because they're related to a gang member, but they themselves have never done anything and they are not in the gang, I think that would be something that like comes up on a routine traffic stop and becomes an issue. Even if the guy didn't do anything wrong, well, the system says that this person could potentially be up to no good. And I can see how that is like, we're in this in-between times where like in the initial process of implementing a system like this, we are in a difficult situation. It's a complex thing, but I can understand why this is so attractive to law enforcement. And I can understand why to people who are not from the most marginalized communities that are probably never going to have themselves in this point system or Operation Laser. Like, for example, affluent white Americans, people who live in Beverly Hills. I can understand why they're like, yeah, put this system into play. Because they're like, it's not going to affect me. Why would they be looking at me? They're just going to look at all the people that could potentially harm them or, you know, be a menace to society, which ends up being that marginalized group, colored people, poor people. Dude, we're in the middle of so many complex situations. Crazy stuff, dude.
40 points. Those that end up with the highest number of points, we'll take a look and see where are they now.
Boom, he admitted it. Government surveillance is on. For sure, for sure, for sure.
It seems kind of hard to avoid police contact when that's your home and this is your history and the contact is coming to you.
Well, not necessarily. If you live in the area and you did time and you've got a job and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, then you're not going to be getting that constant police contact.
You're not going to have a constant police contact. You're just going to be on the list because unfortunately, the numbers don't lie. I believe people who've been to prison once are more likely to end up back in prison, more likely than a person who's never been to prison. You know, that I'm saying that like it's anecdotal, but let's look it up. Are people on parole more likely to commit crimes and go back to prison? I know it's a very pointed question. The likelihood of people on parole committing new crimes and returning to prison is complex and depends on how it is measured. Parole supervision can be effective in reducing the likelihood of returning to prison. A 2013 study by these people in New Jersey would say that people on parole in New Jersey were 36% less likely to commit new crimes and return to prison compared to individuals at the end of their sentences without parole supervision, known as max outs. So yeah, if someone did like 20 years in prison and their sentence is over and they come out, very interesting. Very, very interesting. A person released from prison for violent offenses are among the least likely to be rearrested for any crime, convicted of any crime, or incarcerated for any crime. Super interesting to me. So what I've been led to believe that people who've been to prison are more likely to go back to prison seems to be some bullshit. Seems to be propaganda, dude. I think I got that information from a movie. So parole supervision is associated with lower rates of returning to prison for new crimes compared to release without supervision. And I think that's what they're trying to get at here. Like, I think that's what this dude, in a well-intentioned way, is trying to say. Like, if they know that we're watching them, they're probably not going to go and mess around some more. And I can understand this, dude. Super difficult situation, man. Super difficult situation. Would you rather have it and have the surveillance or not have it? And you know, people are going to commit more crimes. Like, ultimately, if people don't think that they're being watched, they're going to do the bad thing.
The problem is the public has no way of knowing who's being targeted, which is why the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition is suing the city for more information.
Okay, there's the red flag. There is the compromise, and the very least you should be doing is informing somebody, whether it's through whatever, like a letter being like, hey, you are being watched. As creepy as that is, if you're going to be watched anyways, you'd rather know, right? Rather than being spied on. Would rather know. And I feel like if the intention is to keep people out of crime, then yeah, tell them. Just a person knowing that they're being watched is going to, I think, significantly decrease the likelihood that that person will commit a crime. But still, that's some Orwellian shit, dude. This is some Orwellian stuff.
As people in the community, they speak about it. They say, you know, the officer came up to me and said, I see you, I know your brother, I got your brother, I'm gonna get you.
Man, hell nah. That is too much. I see you, I'm watching you, I got your brother, I'm gonna get you next is intense. If a person's actually committing crimes, okay, I have no qualms with it. But like just watching people and collecting all that data into databases forever, that is some creepy Orwellian mass surveillance shit. And here we are. The cat is out of the bag, guys. It is no longer, like I said at the beginning of the call, at the beginning of today's stream, some people don't want to believe that mass surveillance is a thing, and they don't want to believe the Edward Snowden stuff. It's like, no, this is happening right here, right now. This is like, we know the company behind it. We know that company probably has a photo of you and me. And now we see predictive policing it's already been a thing for many years. This is 7 years ago, guys. You'd think that in the last 7 years with the advent of Clearview AI and the improvements in AI, that this is not like now standard practice. 7 years for technology is a long time. 7 years.
And laser is just one of several new smart policing strategies. Some departments are also considering drone surveillance and body cameras equipped with facial recognition technology. Meanwhile, cities across the country have embraced a predictive policing approach that focuses not on high-risk people, but on high-risk places. Critics worry it's targeting areas that are already over-policed.
Dude! It's one thing that, yes, these neighborhoods are being heavily policed. That's one thing, okay? It's another thing that now you have automation, facial recognition, cameras, and AI processing this stuff. This is like some crazy futuristic Yeah, Orwellian future. Anybody else read 1984? Yo, the US is in an interesting situation. I mean, there's Americans are so critical of this concept of a social credit score and surveillance, like mass surveillance in China that is purported to be happening. I don't know. I want to kind of look into that on today's stream too, like what the heck is going on over there on the other side of the world. But it's like, yo, it's the same thing is happening. The same things in different words and different gift packaging is happening here in America. And if a person thinks, like that Beverly Hills affluent person thinks for a moment that them supporting these things happening to others does not mean that it could happen to them, y'all are delusional. The hammer can come down on anybody. Like the law can come down on anybody. And when you let that pass, yo, that camera can be turned on you too. Your face, that Beverly Hills or whatever, that affluent person who's like pro surveillance of marginalized communities and neighborhoods, that person's picture is in the database too, probably. If they post it on social media, they're probably in that database too.
One popular tool focused on where crime will happen is Predpol. Today, more than 60 departments nationwide use it to forecast crimes like burglaries and car break-ins. Predpol forecasts crimes based on patterns.
Very, very interesting stuff. Very, very, very interesting stuff. This makes sense to develop this kind of technology. It just makes sense. You want to keep communities safe. And if all it comes down to is, hey, be in these certain areas, you'll deter crime just through presence. It makes so much sense from that perspective. That's why this is such a difficult thing. Like nobody has all the answers. It's such a difficult, complex issue.
Algorithms and big data models simply take inputs, crunch them up to create outputs. So if your inputs are biased, your outputs are going to be biased.
Absolute facts. Absolute super. That guy was spitting facts. If your inputs are biased, your outputs are biased. I know that I've seen that ChatGPT and other large language models have like certain biases towards even political views. And it's because the inputs depends on where they're getting the inputs from. There was an interesting, I think it was on a Joe Rogan podcast where Elon Musk, I think the very first one that they did together in like 2018, I think, where he was talking about how AI is going to be like kind of messed up because the data that it is supposed to be trained on is just people talking online, and people online are not the same civilized, socially conscious and polite people that they might be in person. Like you could get a perfectly professional, polite, good Samaritan, and like the moment you let them have anonymity online, they'd be spewing some crazy stuff. Like when people think nobody's watching and nobody can identify them, they'll say the crazy stuff that they would never say in public themselves. And he was trying to say that like if AI is trained on that stuff, like social media, that there's going to be problems because people kind of bring out their worst behavior online when they think they're anonymous. And even when they aren't anonymous, like, dude, the stuff I see on Twitter, people fighting, there was like a whole conspiracy with like J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, being like super anti-trans and like anti-LGBTQ and whatever. And she was like, the more pressure that people put on her, I saw some tweets that she was just trying to get like totally out of pocket. And it's like, yo, would you really say that to people in person? Or is it just because it's Twitter? You're like, there's this layer of separation and you're not going to harm people who might feel some type of way. We see this stuff every day, but biased algorithms are everywhere. No one seems to care because it's, again, a complex issue. Like what other data are we supposed to train on? The data that the police department collects is biased. Where's the non-biased data? We already know that the American police are biased and they're trained to have some bias. Like they are. I'm not even going to go further on that point. We've already beat that dead horse. Everyone saw what happened in 2020. And I mean, everyone sees what happens before that, like kids getting shot and stuff like that. It's like, dude, what the hell? What is this? What is even going on here? And now you take that information and you put it into a machine. A machine is just going to give you that same echo chamber effect and give you back what you want to hear.
Examples of algorithmic bias. In 2016, Microsoft introduced an AI chatbot called Tay, which quickly started repeating racist and anti-Semitic comments it picked up on Twitter.
What is going on here? Bro, that's so funny. We just talked about it. That's like 2 seconds ago. Yeah, if you trade AI on like people's social media, you're going to get crazy stuff like this. Why? What process and order of operations of reasoning and thinking did this AI go through to come to the conclusion of I need to say this right here? What? How was that even prevalent enough in its training data that it could even think to say this? It could have said anything else.
Then there were those problematic Google autocompletes, which are based on popular human searches. In January, a Google search for Islamists are turned up results like Islamists are evil, and Hitler is turned up Hitler is my hero. And there was also the time the Google Images algorithm mistook black people for gorillas.
Bro, what is wrong with this shit? Yeah, if this is the algorithms we're basing our predictive policing on, I am 1,000,000,000% against this shit. Come on, bro. Dude, come on. This is not it. So yes, the answer to this question is yes, through predictive policing and probably other mass surveillance programs.